Hey everyone, it's LS, and this is the LCK Spring 2018 Playoffs Finals between KingZone and Afreeca, and I'm joined today by Croissant. And just like in the Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves series, we're going to be taking the same approach again for today, and so we're just going to get started right now. So, as previously, I'm not going to comment too much about the draft order or the pick ban order, just sort of let it unfold, and then we can talk about what the team comps intend to do regardless of what the players are capable of doing. And we can go from there. Looks like Spirit's being fielded game 1. I didn't keep up with the usage the last few weeks.
Spirit and Mowgli switched off in the KT series as well. But people generally thought Mowgli looked a little better. Not by much, though.
Tom Ken's first pick. Karma, Rakan, Trundle. These are very different bands from North America.
Yeah. The Nidalee ban is just a peanut target ban. And it's a theory-crafted counterpick to Trundle. Because it's, not a tank, so he can't steal the stats. But it's not necessarily... I haven't seen it actually work anywhere.
Okay.
Or even be picked. The Karma ban was just against Kuro, who rushed Banner of Command, Karma mid. In the KT series, worked pretty well. And then the Rakan ban was just for Tucson, who has like a 100% win rate over 8 games on it. Just really clean.
Okay.
Everything else is similar to NA and EU and stuff.
So, just pausing right here, I mean, I already feel like this is already disastrous. And the reason that I'm saying that is because I can't imagine. I mean, KingZone obviously has to pick their top laner and their mid laner still. The problem is that they already have 2 champions that cannot harm Varus. And Kai'Sa, this is gonna be somewhere where I'm a little bit weak. I don't have enough. I guess I don't even know what the correct term would be for this. I don't have enough images in my head of Kai'Sa in team fights to properly evaluate her damage output, positioning relative to certain champions, and what it's likely going to mean later stages of the game, just because she's so new and then no one ever gets to play her. So with that being said, I just find it really, really hard for KingZone going into the second part of this pick ban to already penetrate Varus. And I think that because Afreeca has the blue side and they already have a team composition that is designed to stop the engage of KingZone. So KingZone's engage on red side, which means that later game Baron plays become difficult if Afreeca turtles their blue side jungle. So I don't know how they're going to work their way out of this in the second pick ban phase, but I already think that it looks really, really ugly. Especially because Afreeca can obviously pinch whatever they feel they can pinch whatever they feel is necessary from BDD or Con, and then more jungler bans. But I can't imagine that this is going to go very well. The Gangplank is interesting because that would be a champion that would allow them to fight inside enclosed territory.
Yep.
And then Talia. I mean, Azir is still on the table. Azir is still really good. Gnar. They keep funneling into this heavy engage, and I just don't understand how you'll get in. Tom Kench and Sion are just going to do insane amounts of work. Gragas is interesting.
Sorry, one thing. I'm not sure why the screen share is super laggy on my end, but it's like kind of frozen.
Is it? Okay, wait, let me...
Yeah, I think it's probably the connection.
Yeah, let me restart it. Stop sharing, and then... reshare. Now?
It's a black screen so far.
Really? Let me check the...
Yeah, it must be my... something.
Oh yeah, Skype says that we have unstable connection.
Damn.
We can restart the call. Try that.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Can you hear me? Can you see?
Yep.
Okay. So, oh, I didn't open up Epic Pen. Okay. So already the Gnar pick I think is super bad. I think that it's probably a higher priority to just guarantee that they get a mid laner that can actually crack backlines or has the luxury of being able to poke. And with Talia having already been taken off the table and other champions like Xerath and whatever not really being meta or good right now, I think that getting Azir here and just reserving counterpick for Khan in top lane probably would have been the best choice. Especially because, I mean, you could even just have gone like Azir here and then Fiora here. And that would have been fine. It would have taken away from the original concept of the initial 3 that you drafted, but I already think this is a total blunder in and of itself. When the enemy team first picked Tahm Kench and then you give them the ability to pick Varus Sion. I mean, this didn't even need to be Varus. This could be Kog'Maw as well. I think Kog'Maw is extremely undervalued. We got to see him in the LCK promo match yesterday. I've been telling people that Kog'Maw is still one of the most broken AD carries in the game for months after he was placebo nerfed. And then he was slightly buffed and people still aren't picking him because God knows why. But with that being said, I think that them identifying that this is already problematic, like this core 3, and trying to break away from it is their best chance at salvaging the draft. I think that trying to brute force it and stick to the original concept by getting a Gnar, and neglecting the fact that they already have a very, very big weakness because of how Blue Side can choose to play this out is just foolish. So much like, other series that you and I VOD reviewed, and also just other series that I VOD reviewed recently, even the SKT-KT series, this is a really, really big draft blunder. There's fundamental flaws in KingZone's approach, and I think that they got eviscerated in the initial 3, and they're continuing down. This is like watching Anakin jump at Obi-Wan Kenobi right here. You know,
Yeah.
Afreeca has the high ground, and
Quick question.
Hold on.
What do you think?
What are those sirens? Those sirens?
Rip.
Hold on. I don't know what that was. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. It's pretty loud. Oh, there it is.
What? Whoa. Are those tests? Is that a test? Wait. Oh, it's not a siren. Wait a minute. No, that's not a siren. Wait. I think that they're doing construction right above my room. The most unfortunate of circumstances.
No.
KingZone heard me criticizing them. They're like, oh
Start the
man.
construction.
Okay, I thought it was a siren for a second because I have my earphones in. What is going on?
Construction is continuing until 28. It changed.
How long are they gonna drill like that? I'm trying to do VOD reviews.
Go ask.
Is it really loud?
Yes.
It's about as loud as your voice.
Jeez.
Goodbye.
Okay, bye. Do we just keep going? We just pretend it's not there, the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Alright, this is gonna be great. Alright.
So
Go
when you
ahead.
say that Gnar is like them continuing or like doubling down, how do you think it fits with the first 3 picks on red side?
Well, I mean, Skarner obviously wants to engage, right? Alistar wants to engage. Kaisa obviously wants to make use of opportunistic engage and then use her ultimate to position properly and just eviscerate the target. But I mean, Gnar, he wants this mega. He obviously wants to engage as well. But the thing is that Gnar can be the follow-up engage to Skarner. Skarner can get the initial pick. Alistar chains it. Then Gnar can tunnel in to the backline. He can go in. I mean, Gnar can also be used as like a pseudo disengage to Skarner's engage, like separating, you know, parting the players up, sort of like what Gragas's ultimate can do. You know, if you Gragas ult the middle of a pack, some go forward, some go back. I mean, he's just a very engage heavy champion. I mean, maybe they're looking at it like, oh, okay, we can have Gnar as a win con against Sion because we can just have Gnar split push. And then if we have Gnar split push and they don't have Sion, then it's just going to be on Varus and it's going to be on Tahm Kench inside of the blue side jungle. But the problem with that is that Afreeca still has the opportunity to pick champions. So you're picking Gnar praying that they don't have any more of a defense for the Varus and the Tahm Kench. But that's just foolish. This should almost always be, I think, Azir. Other champions that could be substituted here or something is, I guess if you anticipate maybe them to pick Azir, you can pick Vel'Koz preemptively. But then you risk, you know, getting counterpicked or something like that. And then obviously Vel'Koz Skarner is not a very traditional combo, and you have to wonder, what is that going to be like inside of the mid lane? I think that this should almost always be Azir, just because of the way that he fits in right now. And then after you take Azir here, you still have flexibility. It's not like Azir can't work or interact with these three because he's so flexible. And then because of that, you give them the opportunity to choose whatever it is they're going to choose. If they don't choose something that is going to be extremely formidable against something like Fiora, you can go ahead with Fiora. And yes, they have Tahm Kench, and I understand that he can use Abyssal Voyage and you can bring him down to Sion. But the reality of the situation is that if Fiora gets big enough, it doesn't matter if you have Tahm Kench. You're never going to kill her, and she's going to pick you apart way too far away from Baron. Right, if she's splitting down in bottom lane.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. I think that if they went Azir Fiora and they attempt to salvage the draft that way, it's good. The initial way that they opened with these three, I think is just horrendous. I really, really hate when teams do this. I think that maybe you can open with these three if Afreeca opens with something that's vulnerable. But Tahm Kench doesn't make any sense. They responded with double pick against Tahm. Double pick red side against a blue side Tahm Kench. Basically begging Afreeca to be like, yeah, you know what? Choose Azir plus scaling AD and just turtle your blue side jungle and you win.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't like their draft, but for slightly different reasons.
Okay.
And part of that's to do with the last pick. I think that, so their last pick here is Zoe. This is the only pick ban that I watched. I didn't actually get to watch the rest of the games, but I definitely agree with you that if you're running Skarner, Zoe, and you're just going for the single target pick composition, and you're doing that into Tahm Kench, you're, you know, shooting yourself in the leg. But I think that Alistar is a great pick into Tahm Kench. It's one of the only things that I would pick the Tahm Kench into, or I would pick the Alistar into, and then I think that I would not have gone for the Gnar. I think the Azir is a great pick as well, as you said. But if they were to pick their top laner, which I think is a possibility as well, then I would have gone for... Instead of going for... I think Gnar actually moves away from their first three picks, and it would be really effective to go for more engage if you are banking on the Kai'Sa, and if she's like the sole focus of your team composition, because the Kai'Sa is just really, really, on 8.6 is almost unstoppable if you create the right conditions for her in a team fight. And I am similar to you in that I don't have enough insight and enough data on how she works, but one thing she's just exceptional at in team fights is destroying these tanks, destroying Tahm Kench and Sion. Counter engage doesn't really work against her if you play correctly around her, in that she's like a Kog'Maw except more mobile, you know?
Sure, but then the predicament becomes like, if you're wanting to build around Kai'Sa, then why are you not just having Skarner be a Sejuani? Why are you not just having Alistar be Braum? Why, like, the issue for me is that their draft is convoluted, right? Gnar split pushes worse than Fiora. He engages better than Fiora. He's doing a little bit of both. He has dual purpose here. He can split against Sion, but he can also heavy engage with Mega Gnar for the original three. But the problem is that there's no reason to have a mix-up. Because I think that the primary source of heavy engage against the Tahm Kench, while also handing them the 2 picks remaining, is a complete error. Because now they can just get Azir. And now, even if Sion's not present, Azir is a problem to actually get through with these champions. I just think, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what they're going to pick last. I know the result of this series,
Yeah.
but I don't know what the drafts actually are. Zoe. Okay. Well, I guess you said that, but I didn't realize that you were saying that's what they were going to pick. Okay. So, I don't know exactly how this 2v2 goes. I assume that if Azir is ever isolated by himself, I mean, yes, Kuro has cleanse, but I assume if he's ever isolated by himself, he can die at level 6. But beyond that, it feels like, in top lane anyway, there shouldn't be too much action. Keen and Spirit shouldn't really have kill potential, unless Khan is really, really messing up, or if Keen can get ahead somehow. I think in any sort of a match gank or a counter gank situation, Keen and Spirit come out advantageous because of the way that Peanut would have to approach on Skarner. When I'm thinking about bottom lane, it's also really hard for me because I don't understand enough about Kai'Sa to really think how are these lanes going to go. But they do have the fact that if Alistar is pushed in and you have Skarner approaching from his blue side jungle, it is going to be better than a Skarner approaching from his red side jungle if the colors were flipped here. So, like, Skarner going like this through Tribe Rush and approaching bottom is very different from blasting coning in or predatoring from lane if his teammates are shoved in. So, with that being said, I mean, bottom looks potentially susceptible, but Tahm Kench is still there. It is hard to gank him. If Varus is level 6, then he's going to have his ultimate. It feels like it's Razor's Edge for KingZone, where Khan needs to get ahead, and then they need to isolate Kuro, and then just feels like they're all over the place. Like, who do you really want to be, aside from Khan, who do you really want to be ahead on this team? Would you rather invest into BDD, or would you rather have Prey be ahead? But can Prey actually be ahead? That's the big question mark for me. And then even if BDD is ahead on Zoe, at a certain point, Zoe is essentially still the same champion. I talk about this with Ryze very often. In certain team compositions, if the enemy team has enough stall or enough ways of preventing an engage, which this team definitely does, then Ryze becomes almost the same champion, regardless of if he has 3 kills, 4 kills, or 5 kills early on into the game. Because he can only engage in very specific instances or situations that might arise.
Yeah,
and as long as the opponents play around that, you just can't do anything. It doesn't matter how many kills you have. It's like those solo queue games where you're really fed, but you're on a champion that can't do anything. Just because it's impossible for you to engage because your teammates are too far behind. Or because the enemy team composition is too well suited against yours. So Zoe getting ahead is nice, and it adds a threat factor, but it's not something that Afreeca can't play around and stall the game. If Prey gets really far ahead, due to my lack of understanding of Kai'Sa, I don't know what that actually does, because I'm just having a lot of difficulty understanding how does KingZone break the 3 turret or the 3 tier 2 turret stall of Afreeca's team comp. And I honestly can't see a way except for Khan. That's just the way that I'm looking at it. Can they poke with Zoe? Yes. The problem is that Tahm Kench exists, and then Varus is going to have MR and stuff, which means that Zoe's going to have to hit some pretty miracle Sleepy Bubble Troubles, and then her Q, whatever the hell the name of that thing is. And that's just kind of unrealistic at this level. So it feels to me like KingZone lost draft really, really, really hard. That's my interpretation of these two team compositions. I would always pick to be Afreeca's comp than KingZone's. Almost always.
Yeah, I think the main thing that'll stop KZ is they don't have an effective way of getting onto the Azir. And I definitely agree that Alistar would have been... Braum would have been as good of a pick, if not better, in the lane 2v2. So we can just get into it.
Yep. their delay? I don't know. Oh, that's nice. Huh. I wonder what venue this is.
I think this was a Spot TV.
Yeah, it's SPO TV, but I mean, what venue? It's not at SPO's stadium.
Hmm. Busan. Not sure.
Oh, it's in Busan.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonder if it's where they hold G-Stars. Oh, this is a long opening. Okay. Both teams aren't going for anything risky. Infernal Drake's the first dragon of the game, so it's actually it's really important, I guess, for both sides to get that. It's not like either side doesn't benefit almost equally as much. If, for instance, the Gnar was something like a Maokai or a tank that never gets stats, or even Ornn, it's not as beneficial, I think, for KingZone, because they're only going to get benefit on Zoe and Kaisa. But Infernal Drake should be a pretty heavy priority, which, I mean, this ties even more into the bottom lane predicament that I imagine that KingZone should find themselves in, where if Peanut can't actually manage to make anything happen in bottom lane, can Prey and Gorilla do anything on their own? And I fail to understand how that would be possible in these matchups. So the only thing I can think of is the blue handoff timing. When Azir goes to get his blue and you know that Spirit's on the left side of the map, that maybe you have lane priority and you try to coordinate that and rotate Khan down or just try to set up to get the dragon. But Infernal Drake's super, super big. Nice juke. Still get his flash. Okay, flashless Scion. It also looks like Kaisa or Prey and Gorilla aren't doing that well. What should she have here? Like 39 CS after all this? Oh no, she should get to 40. Really takes a trade though. They get spells out of Kramer. That's actually a really key trade, I think. Because now the post-recall timings and also the blue handoff, whenever it does occur, if Peanut can actually be on the right-hand side and if BDD can have priority, then it can tie into Infernal Drake capture. Freezing the wave. Blue buff's getting handed off to Zoe right now. So this is okay. Well, they're not going to go for it. So one of the things that I would think would be interesting is you just handed off blue to Zoe, and the enemy team knows that you probably want to immediately go over to your red if you're Peanut. Bottom lane, Alistar is about to get back to it, and then if Prey and Gorilla can try to shove out, or if had they been doing it beforehand, Zoe comes back into mid lane, Zoe shoves really, really hard, and then Skarner just comes down, gets the Spire, gets the Scuttle Crab, make sure there's no vision on the right-hand side. If Kuro or Spirit even go for their blue buff to hand it off or something, if you recall Khan right here and you have Khan run down to Dragon, if Kuro ends up teleporting to try to stop the Infernal Drake capture, and then KingZone gets it anyway, Khan TPs back up to top lane, and then you win. Because Kuro's way too far behind, you get Infernal Drake, Afreeca is massively behind on tempo, and now Peanut gets to path to his left-hand side jungle, where Khan has just recently teleported back up to top lane. And by the time Keen gets back up to top lane, Khan should have it manipulated to a state that's advantageous, where his jungler is also within close proximity of him, where it's unlikely that Spirit is going to be in close proximity to his top laner because of the fact that the entire play was just based off him going into his left-hand side jungle, so it's likely now that Spirit's on the right-hand side. I don't... This is a pretty common macro thing that I think I've talked about for a really long time, and sometimes you see it happen and other times you don't. And I don't understand why it's not seen more often. It just feels like it creates so much pressure and you can get so many advantages. Game feels very stalled right now. This is really bad for KingZone. Because any sort of a stalled game is just always going to be advantageous for Afreeca. I don't know what Peanut's doing. Seems really troll.
Was really aggressive.
It was really, really weird. He comes in, sees the pink ward. He's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to get that pink ward because he's thinking that Zoe has priority in mid. He gets the pink ward. Kaisa gets vision control over Dragon. And then they don't respect Tahm Kench's ultimate. I don't even understand what that was.
Yeah, he probably is just, oh, my bot lane's closer, but, oh. Forget that Tahm Kench has a global ultimate.
Yep.
Interesting.
The issue is if he goes to right here, it doesn't matter because Tahm Kench's tongue is still in range. Like he can't actually get within flashing distance to go over the wall, and even if he could, he would still die. So I think the main problem is maybe his thought process is to try to pull them further down into the jungle, but that wouldn't even make sense because in order for that, I think, to be a good play, Kaisa and Prey would already have to have crashed this wave in, because then you could try to make the argument that okay, Kramer or Tushin or someone gets the kill gold on him, but the enemy bottom lane loses a lot of XP and gold from the minions that crash into the turret. But then the problem is that Spirit just paths down into bottom, and then Prey and Gorilla are forced to back up. And once they're forced to back up and you shove in the wave to the turret, you just have Kuro play on the right-hand side of the lane and try to shove against BDD. Even if he can't, you just move the 3 up to River. Peanut is still dead, and then you just start the Infernal Drake, and nothing's going to end up happening. So I don't know what Peanut was doing. This seems really, really, really trolly.
Solo kill.
I don't understand. What? Okay, that's really troll. So Peanut and Khan looking extremely, extremely bizarre in this game.
Yep. I think they'll show a replay probably of how he dies.
It looked like a Cyan ultimate into something. But it doesn't matter. KingZone's super far behind right now. Game is such a nightmare state. They haven't managed to achieve anything. They have a worse team composition. And the lane that was crucial for them to be ahead in even after the early blown flash, they didn't do anything with it. And then what the hell?
Yeah, he just doesn't flash it.
Yeah, he doesn't flash it.
Yeah. Prey and Gorilla. I don't know if they should be able to get 3 summoners for 1 summoner at like level 4 in this matchup, but they did. And they weren't able to capitalize on it. They just surrender that because they know Keen has ult and TP advantage.
The game is already quite a shit show. I don't know whether to be relieved or sad that League is entering a state where it's very similar to like StarCraft build orders, where you can see just how far ahead a team comp is, and if you can evaluate that they're even remotely similar in skill, then you should know what the next couple of minutes and fights are going to look like, and then that can really tell you about what's going to happen inside of the game. Obviously, comebacks and stuff still exist inside of the game, but I think that at this level, finals in particular, stuff becomes a lot more clear.
Yeah.
This is just really, really, really bad. Khan's even in CS. He's not really achieving anything. Azir's down in CS, but I think that that's probably fine. I mean, he even has an Infernal Drake, so Varus and Azir are getting insane buff from that.
Yeah, as long as he holds tower in the matchup and doesn't get ganked by Peanut, he's doing his job. Spirit's going for, what is that? Targon's Brace. After Runic Echoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we haven't seen much. Maybe like 1 game of Gragas in LCK playoffs, something like that. But it's typically what people go for when every other jungler, tank jungler is banned out.
Gragas is so interesting. Jungle's in a really weird state right now. Has been for a little while, where the picks are very stale.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch this one more time. Okay. Even though Skarner was here, it's not going to achieve anything. I don't know what KingZone was trying to call for. That seems very panicked.
Yeah, Skarner and Zoe were both pretty far away too.
I love their usage of Tom Kench here. They identify that Zoe was not in mid. They bring in Tom Kench ultimate. They bring Kramer mid lane, get a lot of turret damage, and it also demands that Peanut show himself in mid. And for what it's worth, KingZone are obviously keeping up in the gold department. Not that it really means anything, because gold isn't really representative of what's happening inside of this game. But it is a testament, I think, to their mechanical ability. That at least mid and bottom lane are doing well in the CS departments and stuff.
Yeah. Like just there, you could see BDD went for the Sleepy Trouble bubble onto Kramer. And then Peanut has a good look on Kuro, but at that point, the Zoe can't follow up, so it's just a wasted ult. So, after a reset, bot just runs straight mid, grabs a tower, and then goes back bot. Pretty good.
Well, that top turret HP is still so healthy. There's really not much to talk about. The game, this happens sometimes when I watch Korean games, where the game is in a very stalled state.
Yeah.
And nothing's really going on, but nothing is something. Something is going on. Afreeca is just fortifying everything and not allowing anything to happen. They're capitalizing on KingZone errors and mistakes. They're going to get themselves an Ocean Drake here. Next dragon's going to be Mountain. That's obviously a nightmare for KingZone. Because if they end up getting that, any future Barons, any future Dragons, or Elder Drake, if it comes to that point, it's just going to be really, really scary. Take a look at this team fight. Peanut's down here. He sweeps it. They bring in Tom Kench for a flank. So on the surface, this looks like an even fight.
Mid-wave's crashing, though.
Yeah, mid-wave's crashing, and you look at top lane. So KingZone get themselves a turret, but they lose out on quite a bit in mid. They lose out on stuff in top lane, and now they're going to end up shoving the lanes back into Afreeca and handing over priority. And remember, we talked about, in Champion Select, that this is the real problem for KingZone, is this. Everything within the blue is the problem. There is no way this team comp can crack this once this turtle is initiated. There's absolutely no universe that this team composition can break this. They don't have the ability to push top. They can't push in mid anymore. They're not going to be able to make picks. All of the pressure is going to be on BDD because he somehow has to find some ways to hit multiple bubbles and a lot of poke underneath this turret if they want to hope to crack it. And the problem is that they can't just knock away Kuro or Kramer, because both of them are equally able to defend some sort of a barrage that's going to come onto the turret, as long as Tushin and Spirit are in close proximity. So with that being said, the real question becomes is, without any sort of dragons, like if KingZone had 2 Mountain Drakes right now, this is a very, very different game. There's very real threats. Like, if KingZone had 2 Mountain Drakes at this exact moment, I would probably say that they're slightly ahead, but they don't. And because they don't have those 2 Mountain Drakes, they are so far behind it's not even funny, and there's no way to really get that just by looking at the gold. They're facing down an Infernal Drake, so even more incentive for Kuro and Kramer to just basically want to be patient, continuously scale. And it just doesn't make any sense. Gnar is behind Sion. Gnar doesn't have any way of actually even threatening bottom tier 2 turret. He can't even get tier 1 turret down. And now they're going to do the lane swap stuff. And even when Gnar goes into bottom lane, Sion's at a point where he can just endlessly wave clear, and Gnar doesn't have a way to answer to it. So he's not even going to get chip damage. So the next Mountain Drake is going to end up coming up. At that point in time, Afreeca should have... They will be at a point where they're scaled stronger than KingZone's team composition, and the fight should probably just be one-sided, and then a Baron ends up getting captured. That's what I would foresee happening in a lot of situations, regardless of who the teams are, from this state of the game. As long as it's high-level teams. Okay, game's over. There's no coming back. Team comp's terrible.
I'm just confused how they were able to rush Baron without KZ ever setting up for it, or why KZ. I think Gorilla tries to set up some wards right before he recalls, but he just recalled at the same time.
Even if they see the Baron being done, the main predicament is that it's Varus Azir.
Yeah.
So Varus Azir, both 2 items with an Infernal Drake, they're going to shred that thing so quickly. And if you try to go contest, you're going to get smacked right now. Khan doesn't have teleport, and neither does Keen. But the problem is that KingZone is a lot more reliant on Khan than Afreeca is on Keen. Because you can't just have Skarner go balls to the wall. You also cannot have Gorilla go balls to the wall, because Kai'Sa is never going to be able to get an opening with just Peanut and Gorilla. She needs more protection, because it's going to be way too easy for Afreeca, with their team composition, to defuse a Skarner or Alistar engagement and then just pick them off immediately before BDD or Prey can offer any sort of damage.
Yeah, so Gorilla goes over here, gets a ward on the side, but it's Pink still in Baron. Then Prey gets red, both recalling at the same time. And what do they do now?
Showing mid lane.
They trade, or they go to hand out the blue.
Yep.
It's just kind of weird.
The dilemma here is that there's no response.
Yeah.
That KingZone can even offer. Just look at the speed at which it goes down. Let's just watch this. So they started at 25-15.
25-15.
And it's killed at... Okay, so about 11 seconds.
Yeah, and they even have Crow tank it, which means that his DPS gets cut down.
Yes.
Okay.
So, even if they were able to be right here, it's still a nightmare spot. Because from this angle, Afreeca can still stand like this, if they want to, and continuously keep DPSing the Baron. And then with Varus ultimate and Gragas, you should be able, in theory, to keep Peanut away. And then you can get the Baron and you can just kite backwards. You can play front to back. And there is absolutely no way that, obviously, Khan can come to the fight. So it is going to be a front to back, and in a front to back, KingZone's just going to get completely decimated. This is sort of looking like the SKT KT game, where the play is decided so early on that the rest is not enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. Hopefully the other games are better.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping. In a weird way, though, it's reminding me of StarCraft.
Yeah.
Or StarCraft 1, not
MSI is,
StarCraft 2.
Actually really exciting this year.
Yes, MSI should be exciting. One two twoing isn't atrocious here because Tom Kench and because of the Baron buff minions. I think this is actually really, really good. I mean, 302 is also equally as good with the Baron minions. 302 is really, really powerful. Tom Kench plus Sion is able to protect Varus, and then Azir can protect himself with Gragas. So 302 KingZone is not in a situation where they're prepared to handle it because their team composition is so reliant on all being together. If you split up that team comp and, you know, take bits and pieces or any sort of pairings, you can't really find something that you would ever end up having an advantage against an Afreeca pairing. So it's really nice to see them do that. Another Mountain Drake coming up, which is actually, I probably think that's the best role that Afreeca could want. I mean, there could be an argument that Infernal Drake would be better, but I think another Mountain is right up there as well. It's going to help with the future Elder Drake if the game gets to that state. It's going to help Varus and Azir just get into the base quicker. One of the things that's worrying for me, though, is that with such a gigantic advantage, Afreeca's not able to do anything with it, and this kind of reminds me of North America, in a certain way, where very, very large leads, sort of reminds me of KT as well, where the mid-game map movements are seemingly getting worse the longer the game goes on, and then once it becomes late game, the map movements just seem very arbitrary. It doesn't really seem like they have a plan as they move around the map. It seems like they're just sort of going with the flow and trying to match tempo, and then just ride out the advantages. And I mean, it's not going to lose them the game. It's just, I feel like if KingZone was in the spot that Afreeca's in right now, the game would look very, very different. Like if you swapped, if KingZone had all the Afreeca champions and were in an identical spot, I think that the way that the map was just played out for the last 4 or 5 minutes would look dramatically different. And I think that's an important thing to look at when you're trying to evaluate the skill level of a team, is what can they do with advantages. Not necessarily how did they get the advantages, because the reality of the situation is that they didn't really get themselves any advantages this game outside of the Tushin Tom Kentrell onto Peanut. But I think that that's more of Peanut's mistake. I don't think they really did anything. I mean, you can credit Keen with solo killing Khan up in top lane, but really, did they do anything this game, or did the team comp do it? Yes, they didn't die. No, they didn't fall susceptible to anything. They didn't fall super far behind. They didn't give up any sort of solo kills. But beyond that, I don't think they did anything. So when the team compositions are more even, that's the big question mark. Because you should assume that... I mean, KingZone is playing better, as weird as that sounds. At least in the mid and late game. Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. This is what they
Alright.
wanted with their Kai'Sa. Let's
Alright.
see how that fight plays out.
Yeah, I'm watching KT all over again. So, Nara's down in bottom lane. You have Sion with the main team. Not proper vision control set up. Get the Baron. Holy moly. So bloody. Azir did...
Yeah, I
wait,
think-
what? Okay, Kuro did not protect Kramer at all. That's a really big problem. But I mean, with Prey being... Oh, whoops! I thought I dropped something. Okay. With Prey being so close, though, I wonder if it even matters at that point. I think that
Yeah, they still lose it for
Yeah.
sure, but I mean, it was really good from KZ because Khan just got that pink ward back over there, which is, I mean, Afreeca could have cleared it, but it is a little tricky too. And then Kramer even plays it pretty well because he flashes over to the side as soon as Prey comes in on the other side with his Kai'Sa ult. But then Kramer just gets dunked on by the Gnar. So
that was just a really, really, really bad setup. Somehow, Afreeca lets themselves get surrounded, and then that's not the way that they ever want to be fighting. If they ever take a straight-up team fight, front to back, KingZone can't win. But if KingZone can look for similar engages in fights like that, they can definitely bring themselves back into the fight. But KingZone has to be playing full-on guerrilla warfare, and Afreeca needs to make mistakes in order for KingZone to win. Like, that Baron fight was huge for them to take. They needed to take that, or the game would already be over right now at 37 minutes. But KingZone is still super, 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 super far behind.
yeah.
Itemization's kind of weird. From Vars. No Wits End. I find that to be kind of strange, considering that some of the members of KingZone will be clumped up inside of teamfights, and you give Azir just so much more damage. You give Tom Kench more damage, you give yourself more damage, you give Gragas more damage. I find that to be really, really strange.
What gives them more damage? Sorry, I missed that.
Wits End.
Yeah.
I don't like the rapid fire cannon. They were so far ahead already, and you have Azir. You shouldn't need a rapid fire cannon.
Yeah, he just likes building it early. I think he got it as a second item, and he probably feels like they have too much magic damage / magic resist, but the Wits End definitely synergizes well with the Azir.
25 pen, definitely nothing to scoff about. Oh man.
So they have better positioning in this fight. At least they're not surrounded. Okay. Baron's up. Crow goes to the scuttle to grab that before doing anything else.
All right.
A lot of Western teams just ignore it. Okay.
Should just actually burst back. Yeah, double mountain and the buff. So I assume they just A move now. They have top pushing via Scion. Scion should just leave the top wave as it is so that it slow pushes, and then you can just bring. Yeah, just do that. Don't even hit it. Okay, that's good. What Keen's doing is really good. Crash it in, and this should be the final fight, because KingZone's team comp is not prepared to handle this.
Yeah, 30 seconds of Elder left.
Yeah. Okay, Afreeca. All right. Go in. They're gonna enable the 7v5. Got the last inhibitor. Well, cannon. Oh, doesn't quite get it. This is really sad. A lot of people, that are trying to be optimistic or positive, just being like, oh, they're just playing really safe. And I'm like, no, they're just playing bad. All right, so there you go. That looked a lot harder than it should have been. The fact that Afreeca was just repelled, that really, like, if I'm sitting here watching this and this is game one, which I guess it is, right? But if I'm watching it live, I'm turning to the person, whoever's next to me, and I'm asking them if they want to bet on the next games, because this is really bad. The amount of struggle that Afreeca is having with such an advantageous team composition, amazing Drake RNG, minus the Ocean Drake, is really something to behold. But also, I think it's a testament to KingZone's ability to, try to finagle these team fights and manipulate them to be advantageous for themselves and find openings.
And, like, threaten these picks and stuff.
Yep.
One thing that makes it harder for Afreeca is probably that Gragas is just doesn't really have that many combat stats right now. He has like a 4,000 gold and stuff that doesn't really help him out that much. But they're really cautious about the Kai'Sa.
Yep. All right, and it looks like that is it for game number one. So my conclusions for that game is Afreeca won, but they didn't win. I feel like KingZone lost. And what I mean by that is the overall level of play, given the advantages that they had, and the laning part, right, is worrying. I think that Keen did fantastic, obviously, with the solo kill on Khan and keeping up in CS. He was easily the best player in that game for me. But what happens with Drake RNG maybe being a little bit different, and what happens when the team compositions are on a more even footing? I think that KingZone just drafted themselves into an early grave. And that's all that really happened that game.
Yeah, I want to see how they adapt and just change it up next game.
All right.